Welcome back to the Holler. TNHoller.com is where you can find us at the TN Holler on Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. We also have Hollers hollering all across the state. Thanks to your support. We really do appreciate it. Chipping in keeps us going. Shout out to Elisa Parker. If you're buying or selling a home in Middle Tennessee, do it through her. And if you need a lawyer, Abby Rubenfeld is very supportive of us. All right, let's get to it. Today, we are joined by somebody who has thrown his hat in the ring for the 7th district, which is the district that I ran for Congress in. It looked a little different back then. The guy that I lost to, I'm calling him Rep. Mark Greed. He has decided he is no longer going to represent that district because he is going to make money in some foreign oil something. Anyway, he's putting money before his people, and now the seat is open. Bo Mitchell, Representative Bo Mitchell, is running. Bo, how are you today?
Great. Thanks, Justin.
All right, so let's just start with the decision. What made you decide to do this, Bo?
Bottom line, we can sit home and watch the news day in, day out and see what's happening in our nation. I've got 2 young boys. Well, they're not young anymore. One just turned 20 and one's 18. This is not the type of country I want them to grow up in, where you're seeing people being picked up on the side of the road with people who don't identify themselves, wearing masks, and then they take these folks to undisclosed locations. That's not the country I want my children to grow up in.
Further and further into authoritarianism. It's a little bit of a crowded field. You know, there's a few of you doing it. What do you think sets you, Bo Mitchell, apart?
I mean, I've got a history of overperforming in races. First time I ran for the state house was in 2012. President Obama was on the ballot for re-election. He lost my district by 21 percentage points, and I won that year by 1/10 of 1 percentage point. I've historically overperformed the top of the ticket in my district year after year. I credit that to some of my time I served in the Metro Council. When I was in the Metro Council, we had a historic flood here in Nashville. People had 4 to 8 feet of water. I had 2,497 FEMA recipient homes in my zip code. When people have 4 to 8 feet of water in their home, they don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, as long as you're there to help. And I think the people of the 7th Congressional District, as they're losing their health care, they don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, as long as you're there to help them keep their health care.
So it sounds like you are not a fan of the big, beautiful bill that just passed.
The big, beautiful mess, when you lower the taxes on the highest 20% of wage earners and you raise the taxes on the lowest 20% of wage earners, jeopardize kicking over 300,000 Tennesseans off their health care and 778,000 people off of SNAP. That's a tragedy. We're a better nation than that. I'm running to repeal that bill. And I ask people every day, have you had enough?
It feels like people are looking for fighters. People are looking to stand up to this regime. How do you view the role of a representative right now and fighting Trump and what he's trying to do to this country versus working with Republicans who might not be willing to break from him on anything?
Well, Justin, I think from your time covering the Tennessee General Assembly, I'm not bashful for standing up and fighting the other side of the aisle. I have a history of being quite vocal. Like I tell folks, my filter was lost a long time ago in the Tennessee General Assembly. I'm going to stand up for what's right, and I'm not going to sit back and watch injustice happen.
I just want to ask you about a few specifically that we're seeing in the news right now. I mean, do you have any thoughts about Trump firing the BLS commissioner that gave him jobs numbers he didn't like? And can we trust the numbers that come out of this government going forward?
That's going to be highly questionable. It's shooting the messenger. Hundreds of people are involved in creating those numbers. It's asinine to fire that gentleman just for reporting the truth.
One of the things that we've seen a little bit of a split in the Dems on the Gaza and Israel stuff. Where do you come down on our support for Israel and either offensive or defensive arms embargo? Do you feel like it's time to break with them?
First and foremost, what's happening in Gaza is a tragedy. Israel has the right to defend itself, but aid has to get to civilians who are not involved in this war. We can't sit back and watch children starve to death. That's unacceptable. The United States should use its leverage as a superpower to ensure that aid is getting to the citizens. We need to demand a ceasefire occur immediately and the hostages be released.
There was a specific vote, though. I'm going to pin you down. I'm going to ask everybody in this race on this specifically, though. This one I got to drill down a little bit on.
Yeah.
There has been a debate about, like, do we cut off aid to Israel? We give them billions of dollars a year. We give them weapons. There have been, like, specific votes about this now. 27 Dems voted to cut off, I think, offensive arms to Israel. Like, how are you feeling about taking votes specifically to cut off arms to Israel, if that's what it takes?
Well, I think learning from history in the Tennessee General Assembly by taking power away from the executive branch to be able to do things, Medicaid expansion, for example. Tennessee General Assembly, the Republicans voted to more or less handcuff Governor Haslam. I think what you're asking in this question would be doing the same thing. We need to be able to have the leverage of those weapons to make Israel understand that we're serious about the aid that's 2 miles away from these civilians needs to reach these folks. We do not need to see starvation in Gaza. There's no sense in that.
Obviously, Medicaid expansion here in Tennessee hasn't happened. You've been vocal about that. I think a lot of Democrats have spoken up about that. Where are you on universal health care, Medicare for all? I've seen that come up at town halls. Actually, last night in Nebraska, it came up. Ro Khanna brought it up recently. Where are you on support for something like Medicare for all that would cover everybody?
There is millions of jobs that are in the healthcare industry right now that it's a tricky balance, to make certain that we're not hurting the economy. But we are the richest nation on earth. There's no reason that anyone in this country should go without health care. When my father was 39 years old and I was 10 years old, he had a massive heart attack. My father did drywall for a living. He worked for himself. If he's not working, there's no income coming into our house. He was down for several months with his heart surgery, and the insurance companies raised our rates for a family of 5 to over $1,000 a month in 1980. We lost our health care. So I had no health care from the time I was 10 years old until I was 19 in college. Was working for an employer gracious enough to put me on their plan. So I know what it's like to be sick as a young child, or to get injured in the backyard playing sports and not be able to go to the doctor. There's no reason that anyone in this country should go through that.
So can I chalk you up for a yes on Medicare for all? To get to a place where we all have health care, it seems like right now in this moment, when this guy is kicking 17 million people off, this is the moment to really push for that. So
with expansion in this state, we could have gotten very close to getting everyone health care in this state, but the Republicans have stood in the way over and over again. They don't even know why they're against it anymore. 40 states.
They never did.
Exactly. It's cost billions of dollars to our state economy, and those dollars get turned over several times in our economy. They go into the healthcare industry and then they go out into the rest of the economy.
Yeah, for sure. Medicaid expansion is something that we should absolutely do. In Nashville, you're a Nashville rep. How are you feeling about the Tesla tunnel and what it means for Nashville?
I don't know what it means for Nashville. First and foremost, property in downtown Nashville is very valuable. I see no reason for the state to be given the richest man on the planet free land so he can build his tunnel that he will profit from. They've went out of the normal legal process bids. If it's surplus property, I don't think this was surplus property. I think it's a gift to the richest man on the planet. And it kind of reminds me of a few years back when Governor Lee wanted a photo op with Tim Tebow. So he put $3 million in the budget for Tim Tebow's charity. I think he's looking for another photo op.
This district has some Nashville in it now. Where are you spending most of your time as you run for this race? And what are you hearing from people out there?
Like you said, this district is 22% Davidson County, but there's also 13 other counties. And I think that's what sets me apart from the other folks in my primary. I've got such a history of working in those other counties, serving those people, either when I was working for a state senator or Governor Bredesen, making relationships in all those rural counties. Is a Democrat going to win some of those rural counties? Probably not. But if you want to win this seat, you better close the gap. And that's what we intend on doing.
Just want to give you like a chance to make a final pitch to primary voters in TN-7 now. Why vote for Bo?
Like I said, I'm, as you know, from my history in the Tennessee General Assembly, I'm going to stand up for when I see something's wrong, and I'm not bashful about speaking out. You know, I've probably had my microphone turned off more times than any other person in the Tennessee General Assembly. Frankly, that will happen even more probably in Congress. I've got that history of working in the rural areas.
I don't know if they do that in Congress, Bo. I feel like that's just a Tennessee thing.
Tennessee
See that
authoritarianism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think we were the test pilot for Project 2025
Yeah.
in our state. I'm just asking anyone who wants to get involved in our campaign, please go to votebo.com. We'd love to have you. We got a big tent and we're going to win this seat. There's a window of opportunity that's been opened up for the Democrat with this special election. It's going to be the only election nationwide, be the first election after this big, beautiful bill, the mess that it is. And it'll be a referendum for the country to see if they've had enough of this administration.
Last night, Rachel Maddow said that we've crossed a line. We now have an authoritarian running our government. Do you agree with her assessment of that? Do you think we have crossed a line and that we're tipping into authoritarianism?
Like I said, when you have people who are unidentified, driving vans, throwing people in the backs of vans and taking them to undisclosed locations, that sounds more like Bogota, Colombia than it does the United States of America. So I think we're slipping farther and farther in that direction. People need to stand up and voice their opposition.
All right, Bo. Good luck to you. Votebo.com.
Votebo.com. Thank you so much, Justin.